So now I have the very daunting task of introducing our guest of honor tonight, George Weiss. Now, it's very hard to introduce George without using a lot of superlatives, so I hope you'll excuse me. So what can I tell you about George? First of all, that he served as a trustee for nearly a quarter of a century. That's a long time. The typical trustee term is 5 years. He has chaired the Making History campaign, which has already surpassed its $3.5 billion goal more than a year ahead of schedule. When I was talking about George to my husband, George, on our way down here tonight, and I said, I'm going to be introducing George Weiss, he said, George is really a Renaissance man when it comes to philanthropy. And I'd have to say I agree, because it's not just how generous he's been with his own treasury, and he's one of Penn's greatest philanthropists, but it's also what he gives in terms of his intellect. So over that 25-year period, he has been the confidant of several university presidents and has really helped to make Penn the amazing institution it is today. One of the things I like to say a lot is that our Penn degrees, no matter when you got it, whether it was a couple of years ago or a couple of decades ago, our Penn degrees are worth more today than they were when we received them because of the prestige, the increasing prestige that our university garners. And then finally, and what really endears George to me, and the reason I came down here tonight just to be here at Quaker Nights, is that George leads with his heart. When I think of the thousands of students who have gotten a Penn education because of his generosity in terms of scholarship, as you know, undergraduate financial aid is one of the causes near and dear to his heart. It's not just the money. He gets to know these students personally. He counsels them. He's available to them for everything from job advice to personal advice. It's really remarkable. And then I think about his leadership in terms of Penn athletics. He just opened the Weiss Pavilion. If anybody hasn't been to see this, it's amazing. They carved out a part of Franklin Field and have just turned it into this amazing workout center. But he is at every football game. And again, he knows all the football players and helps them with getting jobs, with starting out on their careers, all kinds of advice. There is no one I admire more. I mean, he is the role model for a Penn alum in everything he does. He truly bleeds red and blue. And again, it's not just his generosity, it's his care and warmth. It's just incredible. And he's extended that to his family. His wife Lydia is here, his daughter Allison Weiss Brady, and her husband Chip Brady. And it's fantastic to see you here too. So tonight we're in for a special treat. John Zeller, who's the Vice President of Development and Alumni Relations, who I think is also breathing a sigh of relief given where we are in the campaign, is going to be interested in interviewing and having a conversation with George. So welcome everyone, and thank you for being here.
Many people are philanthropic to Penn, but more and more people are becoming engaged with the university. When was the first time that you felt that you were becoming part of the university fabric as a volunteer?
Well, that's actually was interesting. It started within months of my graduation. I moved to Hartford, Connecticut, and there was an alumnus there by the name of Hum Rosen, who in my view is the quintessential Quaker, and he got me to join the secondary school committee. So I started interviewing young men and women for Pennsylvania, I think it was 1965, 1966. So that really started getting me involved, and I also started recruiting football players in the Connecticut region in the same year.
And then you joined the athletic board?
Yeah, some years later I joined, but I was also president of the Penn Club in Hartford for a number of years.
So as that relationship has matured over the years, you have literally supported almost every institutional priority out there. You've given to undergraduate financial aid your $14 million gift at the beginning of this campaign to launch the men and women of Pennsylvania in a match. Given to Franklin
Can I tell you a story about that?
Yes, please do.
If I had my choice, I would prefer doing things anonymously. But when you're a leader of a campaign, it's very hard to do because it's very hard to ask, as Lee mentioned, and Lee does do a phenomenal job for the university. That when she talked about that $1 million gift, or a $10 million gift. The problem is if people don't know that you've given yourself, it's very, very hard. And what was interesting about that gift of $14 million, I had no intent for that to be public. What happened was I had a discussion with some guys in my office that went to Penn, and I wanted to start this program called Men and Women of Pennsylvania. And your associate Mavis said, well, there's no money in the pot to be able to do that because it's $1.5 million gift with a $500,000 match. So we had this debate whether, I should give a lead gift to it. And I hadn't made the decision. I was down in the football office, and I said to my secretary, why don't you FedEx a blank check to the football office? So she did, and I was kicking it around, still hadn't made the decision. So then I decided to write this check out, put it in an envelope to Amy with a smiley face on it. I had no intent, okay, and probably a little tacky on her part, but we'll forgive her for the great job she's done in other areas. But she got through speaking, and I handed her the envelope. Now, Emily Post said, when somebody gives you a gift, right, you're not supposed to open it, right? And of course, I'm very into those kind of things. And she opens the envelope, rushes back to the stage and announced the gift. And I was, totally mortified when that happened. But I have forgiven her. But it was supposed to be private.
It was a magnificent gift. But you've also supported Weiss Tech House. You've given money at Franklin Field for the Weiss Pavilion. You've supported Pick professorships, one of Amy's highest priorities. And clearly undergraduate financial aid has been a passion for you for many years. In 1987, you formed the Say Yes Foundation. It all seems to revolve back around to undergraduate financial aid and to assisting students. Why is that so important to you?
Well, some people, think I have some great vision in the market, which I'm not sure that's correct. But I do remember speaking at one of the trustees meetings and saying, when tuition goes over $10,000, we'll be doomed. So I sort of missed the mark on that. But I did say at that same meeting, and what's interesting is that I sometimes can be a little passionate, but I got up there and I said, wouldn't it be a shame, okay, we have such a great university, if young men and women out there could not afford the same opportunity we have. I said to the trustees, if we look back in 20 years and we don't make money available to these young men and women of Pennsylvania, we're going to be kicking our butts and saying, how did we fail? So it was really a passion to keep the greatness of Penn going and make sure, okay, and that still, prevails right from Amy on down in the university today and the trustees. We make sure that the cost of a Penn education, in fact, we just had our trustees meetings last week, and the net cost, okay, it costs less today for a kid on scholarship than it did 5 years ago, because our financial aid budget keeps going up. Tuition this year is going up 3.9%. Our scholarship aid is going up 7%. So I think we're handing out $181 million. So the reason, the simple answer to your question, John, is I think it's, it's the duty of everybody, that loves Penn like we all here, and this is a great, great turnout in Miami, is to ensure that these future Pennsylvanians, in fact, some of you are aware of it, in Miami there's a posse program, okay, that's into its 3rd year. And I've taken, the first group out to dinner. I'm about to take the 2 groups that are down there. These are fabulous, okay, young men and women. And I'll tell you, if we look back in Miami in 10 years, and we're taking roughly 11 kids a year. The first year we took 18 because it was such a spectacular group. And most of them, are Latinos, and they will settle back in Miami. And if you can imagine another 50 or 100 or 200 talented young kids that had the opportunity because of the Posse Foundation and the University of Pennsylvania for, supplying, and 98% of these kids are getting a full ride at Penn, how it's going to change the city. So my kudos to the great city of Miami.